Now, we hinted at this in our opening monologue because we're going to devote the first part of our program to the potentially terrific arts, culture and creative economy of Nigeria. The minister in charge of that sector, Barrister Hannatu Musawa, has dedicated the next 3 years to inspiring and accelerating Nigeria's creative economy, aiming to promote and celebrate what millions around the world have come to recognize, that Nigerian music, fashion, movies, etc. can be world-class and can stand up to and even exceed the best of them internationally, whilst uniting Nigerians and creating wealth domestically. This country has a rich cultural history, and certainly in the areas of music and movies has already become a key part of global culture. And for those who are yet to be familiar with, for instance, Afrobeats music, here are the world flavor of some of that Nigerian arts and culture that we're getting ready to talk about. Take a listen. In motion in Nigeria's creative ecosystem. I'm joined now in the studio by the Minister of Arts, Culture and the Creative Economy, Barrister Hannatu Musawa. How nice to see you again.
Thank you.
I should probably say Happy New Year and all the rest of it, because I haven't seen you in quite a while.
In a while. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. We're very honored to have you here. Give us a flavor of what it's been like for you being Minister of Arts, Culture and the Creative Economy. Is it a big challenge or something of a flourish?
Well, as they say in French, ce n'est pas facile, right? It has been a sort of mixture of both. I always say that in the cabinet, I feel that I have the best job because, you know, the area of arts and culture is the happy place of Nigeria. Many years ago, there was a study that said Nigerians were the happiest people in the world. And it took me a while.
That was many years ago.
Yeah, it was many years ago.
But not quite sure it'll be the same today.
It may still be. There can be an argument for that.
Right.
Because it was not until I became minister, I realized, because even back then, it was a sort of puzzle to me. But when I became a minister and I really immersed myself in the world of creative industry and culture, I realized that was a reason why there was a perception of us being very, very happy. No matter what Nigerians go through, in this area of culture and creative industry, this is where we thrive as a people. This is where we get our identity, our expression, our values, our traditions, everything. So that part of it has been a huge flurry for me.
Right.
And a real pleasure to be able to mix with creative people all over the world that are of Nigerian descent. But of course, it has been a bit of a challenge because, you know, coming into this, I realized that this particular ministry, we had to start from ground zero.
Absolutely.
So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his avant-garde thinking of trying to diversify away from oil, looked at the areas of creative economy and different means of growth. And of course, creative industry is a huge means of growth and a huge real estate for Nigeria. As you would know, you just put a number of world Afrobeats hits, really. And the whole world, I keep on saying, at the moment is looking to Nigeria for our creativity and our content and our art. So this is time for us as a people to really tap into that because the potential is huge. And nothing up until the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu came and sort of separated a ministry that caters specifically to the creative industry. So now we can look at it wholeheartedly and put up structures, the unique structures that is needed to allow creatives in the industry to thrive and to be able to gain more value for the nation. So that part of it, of course, has been a struggle because trying to build something from the very beginning has not been easy. And you can't just jump into something. You have to do the right sort of research and to get the right partners, get the right strategic framework in place. So that's what we've been doing for the last couple of months. So we are ready now to come out and activate a lot of the initiatives that I think will really galvanate not only the ministry, but give young Nigerians and Nigerians generally the world over a hope and a vision that for them to be able to see the vision that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has. And, you know, I think great things are really going to come out of all of the initiatives that we have.
We'll talk about some of those initiatives. But obviously, as you said, we heard at the outset Afrobeats music, the fact that it's gone global, the same to some extent with Nollywood films. Though not on the same level of sort of international mainstream penetration as Afrobeats. But obviously, you're not responsible for globalizing Afrobeats and Nollywood.
No,
I mean, that had happened before you sort of came in. Is there an equivalent area, a new genre in Nigerian arts and culture that you are currently working on globalizing that would have the imprimatur of the Tinubu administration?
Well, I think Afrobeats is a Nigerian brand. So, of course, even though people with all the creatives within the sector have been responsible for growing this sector organically, and they have done that on their own without the impetus or help or support of government.
Absolutely.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration wants to see what we can do to continue to promote that, to help creatives. I mean, you have just shown 3 very internationally famous and successful artists. But as you would imagine, all over Nigeria, they're called the support to be able to get that kind of global success. So we want to be able to leverage on that and to see how we can help other Nigerians. Afrobeats, it is something we want to continue to support. And then when you go all over Nigeria, what you find is that there are different flavors of music. And you know, Nigeria is such a diverse country. And that diversity we want to tap into and to see how we can continue to express ourselves musically, through film, through fashion, and through all the other means of within the subsector. There are about 49 subsectors. So we want to see how we can continue to express ourselves within that. So.
And you said you were ready. And I've been reading that in September, I believe you planned a lot of events from September. What's lying ahead? What can we look forward to?
Well, there are lots of things that we have done already. One of the things let me start from the very beginning. You know, one of the things that we knew was very important was to set up a regulatory and legal framework. We didn't have any proper framework, any policy framework that was able to sort of support people or creators within the sector. So we're working on an IP policy which is completely foundational. Without IP, you know,
absolutely, intellectual property.
Absolutely. So we're working on that together. There's an interministerial committee that has been set up. So myself and the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment are driving that particular policy, and hopefully within the next 3 to 4 weeks that should be done. And we're working together with the NESG and World International...
That's the Nigerian Economic Summit Group.
Of course, and WIPO,
the World Intellectual Property Organization.
To also come up with a cultural policy, to update our cultural policy that will be in line with the yearnings and the nuances of today. And also working on a creative economy policy, which we've just started. Also looking at incentives policy. So in terms of the legal and regulatory framework, we're working on that. We would be able to deliver the first part of that within the next, like I said, 3. We've given ourselves 4 weeks max. Hopefully we'll be able to deliver within that time frame. And then, of course, you have to look at infrastructure. There's absolutely no infrastructure to support creatives and to support the expansion of the creative industry. One of our core mandates is to have a cultural expansion, to make Nigeria the cultural and creative hub, not only of Africa, of the world, as, like I said, leveraging on the great strides that Nigerian creators have already done, but also to have an economic expansion. We are part of the economic team. And what we have done in the ministry is we have committed ourselves to contributing at least $100 billion to expand the GDP by 2030. We've been able to do that by working with the likes of BCG, Boston Consulting Group, some of the best minds in the world. We have sat down on a table and I've said to them, we have to contribute effectively to increasing the GDP. Everything that we talk about is really about the economy. And the issue about the economy and how to make the economy very strong in Nigeria is very important and personal to the president.
All that must put you under a lot of pressure.
Just a little. Just a tad bit.
Just a tiny bit.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you've spoken, for instance, about uniting, because I mean, it goes beyond just the wealth creation. I mean, there are other things that emerge out of arts and culture.
Yeah.
These other aspirational things, like sort of uniting Nigerians, you know, in a country that's sometimes hard to satisfy in that direction from a political point of view, politically divided. How do you cope with that political reality of a divided country that you're trying to unite through art and culture? I wonder whether, for instance, the succession of recent events, protests and this and that, places slight worry in your mind, or whether the management of that type of risk is built into your calculations.
Yeah, before I answer, because you asked a question, but it was, I think, that twofold. The unity aspect that you speak about, so let me address that and then come back to the last part that you spoke about. I think the unity aspect in this ecosystem or within this space is not a problem, because what you do find is the one thing that really unites us as a people is our arts. Is our music, is our fashion, is just our expression as a people. So for me, I do not find that divide when it comes to addressing people within this space. Perhaps being the Minister of Art, Culture and Creative Economy, no matter where I go, because the issue of music, it resonates with people no matter what community you go to.
Yeah, but after the music concert's over, they'll come out of the music hall and then become themselves again.
But you know, you were talking about how I deal with it as the unity aspect. What I find is wherever I go, I have that acceptability because I'm representing a part of Nigeria that resonates with Nigerians generally. So that part of the unity is not something that we have a problem with, and I want to leverage on that to see whether we can tap and cultivate this space to bring more understanding and unity for us as a people of 240 different diverse tribes and cultures, right? And languages, that part. Now, the other part that you spoke about the fallout, so to say, of the protest or what have you, what I think is this area, again, this space of the creativity and the space of the culture is the one language that will be able to, again, speak to the people. Because what I found with the protests, just sort of trying to examine it myself, is I found that there was a sort of language lost in translation. The government was saying one thing, and the protesters, to me, was actually saying the same thing as the protesters. But the way it was being said, it seemed as if it was two separate things. The government is very concerned, obviously, about creating a better life for Nigerians. That is why President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has dedicated a large part of his life to the betterment of not only Lagosians, but now to Nigeria. He did not give himself to Nigeria and go into a long trajectory of politics just to fail. He is here to be the best president that Nigeria has ever had. So all the policies that he has brought up, all the different initiatives are to provide a better life for Nigeria. Nigerians, or rather the protesters, were asking for that better life. But there was a sort of barrier in communication whereby it felt as if the protesters were asking for something and the government was not listening. But we are listening. The president does not sleep. He is a man who works literally 24 hours trying to find a way to reduce food prices. Even today, in fact, I was talking to a number
That's the Federal Executive Council meeting.
Again, the Federal Executive Council.
Right.
And again, many of us were discussing the issue of bringing down food prices. And I know, because I do wear my burqa and go into the market, that the food prices have started coming down now. So you're looking at trying to, the ministry is trying to maximize production. A number of initiatives, palliatives, I know palliatives do seem like a short-term solution, but the government has had to roll out these palliatives to try to bring as an emergency sort of response for the pains that Nigerians are going through, and then coming up with different long-term solutions for what we think would give a better life in terms of reducing food prices and the production within the agricultural sector. All the different palliatives are bringing out fertilizers and seeds that they're giving out to farmers, just trying to sort of flood production and then flood into the market. Today, CNG buses were donated, I'm sure you would have heard, to, and we've spoken about the CNG buses, to lower the cost of transportation, and hopefully that will lower the cost of food prices. A number of things the government is doing. So I would want people to listen, and I think within our industry, it would be easier for us to communicate some of not only the initiatives and some of the programs the government is doing, but also to try to reach out specifically to this younger demographic that are so agitated, to know that really, the government is here for you, and we are rolling out programs not only to make life easier for you, but to give you a better future.
Right. And you sound very enthusiastic and inspired there. I wonder if you were to give yourself marks out of 10 for what you've done in your ministry so far, what figure would you arrive at?
I've never been one to give myself marks. I've always lent myself to be judged by other people. Within my ministry, what I would say is I have an amazing team. I have put together a team of creatives, people within the private sector, people within the public sector as well, and people within the creative industry that have the know-how, that know the pulse of the industry. And we have come with an amazing roadmap, a strategic framework that I think will be able to deliver huge gains for the industry and in long term for the government to give this expansion, this economic expansion. And for them, I think it is at least 9.5. For me, the jury is out. And by the time we start rolling out these initiatives, which hopefully will start, I mean, we already started with a fantastic initiative that we did a couple of weeks ago, which I would want all Nigerian creatives to really leverage on and take advantage of. We rolled out CLAP, which is an amazing initiative. It's a one-stop shop. Is a digital platform for all creatives to go in there, to get the network, to get the capacity building they need, to get the resources they need, to get the job creation possibilities and opportunities they need. And that is already on clapnigeria.ng. And I would want to encourage every creative in Nigeria that needs the resources to help them flourish and thrive to go on that. You can start registering on that. And we have a number of private sector that are interested and that have already lent, their help and support to help Nigerian creatives with the networking that they need to allow them to thrive and
we'll be keeping an eye on all those things as they progress, and sort of come out and people start to take advantage of them and make their own assessments. But let's talk about you personally. I mean, after you took over the ministry, you came under sustained political attack.
Did I?
Well, you certainly did. Just remind us of what happened, because there was an attempt to, at one stage, disqualify you as minister, wasn't there?
Well, I'm glad you said attempt.
Well, clearly you're still here.
Well, so, there you go. And that would answer it. I think all the issues that were brought up then have already been settled by a court of law. It is not it wasn't surprising when you're in the political space. You do understand that, you know, people come for political reasons, you know, for the fact that perhaps the position that you're in is, you know, doesn't sit well with them or whatever, you know. So for political reasons, people will attack you left, right and center. But thank God we have a judiciary that will be able to make the right...
that was able to make, or will be able to.
Well, they did. That matter has already been settled by the Court of Law. So I think...
so what did the Court of Law decide?
Well, you can go and check for yourself, Mr. Charles. Well, I'd rather...
We don't all go into the court records.
Honestly...
For all the people who are out there who felt that... Because the issue was that you had failed to provide evidence that you participated in the mandatory National Youth Service program after your graduation from university. That controversy deepened after it emerged that you began undergoing your youth service after you had been appointed minister. Was that the case, or was it all just very complicated?
Well, that's one version of the story. And there have been many, many versions of the story in the media. Perhaps one day when I come out to give my version of the story, we'll be able to settle the matter. The reason why I am not inclined to really speak about it is because I don't want to lose focus on what I'm doing. I need the focus to remain on all the initiatives and the great things that we're doing within this amazingly important...
But that issue has been rested.
It has been completely rested by the Court of Law. So anybody that has questions can go...
I understand that and I respect that. But
thank you.
I mean, subsequently or around that time, you went into a sort of slow fade, then a sort of blackout where little was heard from you in terms of media engagement. But you've bounced back fully now, have you? I mean...
No, it wasn't a blackout. Like I said to you earlier on, for us, because we met a ministry that we had to start from ground zero, essentially.
So you wanted to batten down the hatches until you kind of got your head around it.
Yeah, I needed to really understand the space. We met nothing, no proper structure, because as you would know, the Ministry of Culture in the past has been together with the Ministry of Information, which has by and large overshadowed that component of culture. And creative industry, this is the first time in the history of Nigeria there has ever been a Ministry of Creative Economy or Creative Industry. So it was important for me, rather than to jump in wholeheartedly, to do proper research, and that's why I brought in the likes of BCG, I brought in the likes of EY, McKinsey, to really do a proper investigation and collect data, and for us to come out with a proper strategic framework. And we've been able to do that. And like I said, you know, we have everything in place, implementation. I think perhaps you'll be seeing me more than often on your show, because I'll have more initiatives to talk about as I continue to roll them out.
Do you think Nigeria, I mean, just going back to the political side of things, because of course you are a Minister of Arts, Culture and the Creative Economy, but you're also a member of the Tinubu government, and therefore you represent that government every time you come out to speak. Do you think Nigeria needs to have a national conversation on such sensitive issues as constitutional reform, restructuring, the economic policies of the Tinubu administration that are rubbing people up the wrong way, or is there likely to be reluctance from the government to engage and we get a sort of dialogue of the deaf? Because you talked earlier about this sort of difference between the protesters and what they're asking for and the government, but you're saying, well, there really is no difference. They want the same things, but the sense that a lot of people have is that there are sort of doubtful policies and as a result uncertainty about the future, and people are protesting to get the government to change course.
Well, what I would say is that conversation about what should happen with the government, that was had last year. when we went to the polls. And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had a manifesto, and he was voted overwhelmingly, at least more than the other candidates. That's the conversation, and that, as a fallout of that election, he has a 4-year mandate. And I think it is very unfair for anyone, specifically a group of Nigerians, because I did see a group of Nigerians that went to Mr. President with a number of these demands or suggestions about a constitutional conference.
You mean the Patriots?
Yeah, the Patriots,
right. I mean,
right?
One of them is going to be talking to us, and Keir Briggs, immediately after we
the
finished
Patriots,
with you.
from what I saw, a number of the Patriots were part of government at one point in time. Some of them, in the last government, they were part of government. And they had their time to make these particular suggestions when they were part of the tapestry of government. I think it is very unfair. 1 year into President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, to politicize some of these issues. They had a chance to bring up, the constitutional conference that they spoke about. I saw members of the Patriots that were part of government when the issue was brought up.
Yeah, but there was a constitutional conference which then came up with recommendations which have never been implemented.
But in the aftermath of that, a number of those Patriots were part of government, even in the Buhari administration. I saw a number of them. And nobody brought some of those issues up. I think it is very unfair not allowing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to continue to at least enroll or roll out some of these initiatives. I've just spoken to you now about how we're trying to bring down food prices. And I've just spoken to you about what we're doing even in the creative sector, whereby we're looking for, at least we're trying to create 2 million jobs for young creatives by 2027, and trying to expand the GDP by $100 billion by 2030, which will be able to go into the economy, to expand the GDP, and that will be able to be distilled down and to deal with some of the issues that the agitations, and give Nigerians those specific deliverables that they're looking for. So I honestly think Nigerians need to be patient, as we all are patient.
In other words, they should remain with a constitution they feel is not representative of their wishes, whilst the Tinubu government experiments with the economy and all the rest of it.
We're not experimenting. We are...
Well, so far it hasn't yielded any benefits.
Well, it has.
The people are... the cost of living crisis is crushing people in Nigeria.
But the cost of living crisis was not created on an island on its own. I mean, I know it sounds trite, we continue to bring it up, but there has been a journey that has brought us to where we are. I know nobody wants to hear it, but there was COVID. After COVID, there was the Ukraine war. All this has had an impact. And after that, we had the Naira redesign last year. And then the insecurity of the last, even though it's an APC government, but there was huge insecurity, specifically in parts of the country where farming is more prominent, right? So all this has had an impact that has brought us to where we are. So it's not like we came into government and the Tinubu administration just decided, oh, we're going to bring down the cost of food, or we're going to hike the cost of food.
Okay.
There has been a journey that has brought us. So we inherited a very bad situation coming out of a number of very different tragedies.
Right. Okay. Well,
and it's not just Nigeria.
Right.
As you would know, it's all over the world.
Right.
So
I understand
we're
that,
dealing with it the best we can.
You must come back again so we can talk more about
I think I need to come back more, Mr. Charles, because
please,
I need you to interrogate me
we would love
more
to.
on the beautiful things we're doing in the industry.
You've certainly had quite a bit of time to talk about that, haven't we? But we're more than happy to have you back again, and we're very delighted that you chose to come on the program and talk to us about some of those ideas and initiatives that you've got. Barrister Hannatu Musawa is the Minister of Arts, Culture and the Creative Economy. Thank you very much indeed. Lovely to see you again.